Ladies and gentlemen, 22 minutes ago, China market latest to get AI fever. So, anyways, alright, you guys. So I have an update. I did an update just because since the markets are really opening, technically tomorrow we can have any news from Trump tweeting anything to making the market get lower. So I'd rather just see how it closed the month for crypto or whatnot. A thing that I did notice is that the S&P 500 normally not opens, but gets active again at 3 o'clock Sunday and opens up at 6:30 Arizona time. As the market opens one, like the ship. But anyways, I keep in touch or like to see how the S&P opens at 3 o'clock Sundays because I know that is gonna affect also Bitcoin and Ethereum. They're gonna react more towards it, especially since it closed at 5 p.m. So any data that the market ends up releasing once it opens, Bitcoin's gonna follow to it. And this time, it didn't open at the time that it normally opens. It opened, I think, at 5 or 6 o'clock. Let me check. Sunday 16, Sunday 13. Oh, so it did. It did. Shit, I must have not seen it then. So if you see it after that, right? So Sunday 15, you go to Bitcoin. You go to Bitcoin and Sunday 15. So you see how this whole time Bitcoin was, first of all, Bitcoin was holding this region right here, this price range. And something that I noticed was from Friday to Sunday is crypto, aka just Bitcoin and Ethereum, let you know how the S&P is doing or how the market is really doing. Seeing how we closed at a bad price on Friday, I didn't think Bitcoin was really gonna have a really strong push or whatnot. Because we pretty much left off nervous. The market left off nervous. That's why you saw that drop down on Friday. So as we're coming here towards Saturday, 8 o'clock in the morning, you see Saturday through the nighttime have this push. And I was like, all right, it's not this shouldn't be there, so it's probably some bullshit. Because during that time, you would then see Ethereum 16, 17. Saturday, and here you have your 16, 17. So then, which I found out, I was like, the market shouldn't be that happy. Like the Ethereum isn't gonna shoot on up and continue going on up. I was like, nah, like we still got Monday coming up, and we don't got nothing on Monday. Plus, we left off with bad news. And most likely also on Monday or Sunday night, the person can tweet anything to make matters even worse, and the market could dip a little bit, especially because Monday we're not closed, so there's nothing really for the market for anybody to really to put money in or out or whatnot. So then I was like keeping a close eye on it, and right when the market gets active again, which is at 3 o'clock, that's when we started seeing Ethereum and Bitcoin do their fall downs again. Here's your 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and we close at 5 o'clock. Notice how 5 o'clock we have a sharp down, bringing us back to the same area that we broke. But if you see the S&P 500, again, how it opened, which is right here, this is the 1-hour counter for the S&P 500. There's a time and date, you guys. Forgot to show that. We started having a resistance and started falling down. We're still bullish. You can see also there's a weekly trend line right here that I'm gonna show real quick. This weekly trend line that is still active on. We just broke a trend line that was on the 4-hour candle. So if you go to a 4-hour candle and take this shit off, there was an uptrend happening right here. It broke it after this. That was the first warning. And then here there's your second warning. Notice how my indicator for the S&P 500 and the 4-hour candle still saying how this is your entry and these are your targets. But since I have no fucking data tomorrow, I think the market is waiting for some good news. The data's gonna come out on Tuesday. So therefore, I really fucking need some big data to shoot it up and do this move right here. So what I see the market just sustaining, just consolidating between this price range here, going down to the next support zone that would be your 6,450 or whatnot. Just bullshitting there while the market, digests this whole bullshit and the market opens again on Tuesday. And again, it matters if Trump tweets something that's going to be bad for the market, it might react to it. The first warning that I was seeing, the market was going to start opening bad was XRP. If you notice, XRP, unlike Bitcoin, Ethereum, was just hanging down this pressure right here, and also at 3 o'clock, it started to drop. So, anyways, that I was seeing that, I was like, oh, okay, the market probably opened bad. And then also, I wasn't aware of that the S&P opened at 3 o'clock. For some reason, I thought it was gonna open later because of how the market is closed tomorrow. Anyways, so look, now we're gonna cover what's happening this week for Bitcoin and Ethereum. So even though you're seeing these drops right now happening with Bitcoin and Ethereum, this is all still bullish. All right, it's just a matter of, think about it. We have we have the Fed coming up with their Fed rate decision in pretty much 2 weeks. We have S&P 500 holding at the all-time high. We have Ethereum still at its all-time high, the 4,800. I should know, I'm wrong. 4,300 range. So all this is still bullish. So besides us seeing these numbers go down like Ethereum and Bitcoin, what you gotta know is financially institutes are buying strong, retails are buying strongs, because it's actually gonna be used. That's why as this bullshit happens, doesn't matter if the S&P goes down, because crypto's gonna follow it. So even though you see Bitcoin going down, Ethereum, you're gonna be like, oh shit, I stand for Bitcoin and Ethereum because that's the peak of it, and this is it. All that fucking bullshit you're gonna be hearing on YouTube and your CNN and whatnot, it's all bullshit. The reality, again, it's opportunity for them to buy these coins, these stocks, while they're in cheap. And then once we get to the Fed decision on Wednesday, you'll see them fucking shoot up like crazy. If not, we're gonna have a correction on down. But again, this is gonna happen no matter what. As at some point, these fucks, especially because if they don't cut the interest rate and the markets do fall down, guess who's gonna step in the way and do the whole, I want you out of here, I'm gonna get you fired, just cut those interest rates now, they should be cut a long time ago, blah, 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 blah. He's gonna come to the rescue again because he's a businessman. He has a big ego, so all the big guys, all the big tech, everybody now coming down on him saying how the market is down and this is that. He doesn't like that. So at some point, whether it's not September, October, he's gonna have to come and make this shit happen or whatnot. Doesn't, better for fucking us. If XRP goes down, if Ethereum goes down, if Bitcoin goes down, if Nvidia, Palantir, XRP, Cardano, Coinbase, XLM, BMNR, fucking Tom Lee stock, Tesla, all these stocks are gonna go down. That happens. You know what that means? That means fucking opportunity for discounts to fucking buy all these fucking stocks in crypto. That's what it means. Eventually, it's not gonna happen this September. That's all it fucking means. Cause guess what happens? Guess what happens every time with these fucking stocks? Guess what happens every time they go down? Every time they go down, guess what happens? They go back up again. Guess what happens with the S&P 500 people? What has happened with the S&P every time it goes down? Every time it goes down, what has happened? This is the 2008 crash, one of the biggest crashes we had. What happened after that? Recovered. Here's COVID. What happened after that? We recovered. Here's tariffs. What happened after that? We recovered. So what do you think is going to happen in the future once the market does go down, if it does go down? Anyways, people, this coming up week, this is what we have with the market. Tuesday, we got manufacturing. To make it short, all this is our factory busy or slow. If they're busy, that's gonna be good. But the market, see what what investors want really, they really want to get bad news, especially for job reports. Because if we have bad news, then that's gonna mean the Fed's gonna have to step in to ease the market. If the markets are still coming up positive, he's gonna step in. Powell's gonna step in and be like, "Hey, you guys, we're doing good. There's no need for me to cut interest rate because da 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 da." So that's what we've been this whole time. That's how we've been this whole time. So in a way, getting good news is bad and getting bad news is good. But we have multiple data coming up with each other. It's really about timing the market. You really gotta time and look at the candles because there's a sensitive time area for the S&P 500 to understand where it's gonna end up closing the rest of that forward candle or whatnot. Then we have on Wednesday, we have job openings. Are still hiring? Same shit. Good. That's good for the economy, but investors, that's good, but we don't want to hear that. We want to hear a little bit of bad news. So, because we're getting closer to this Fed meeting, so if we could hear some sort of bad news, anyways, factory orders. business demanding strong, and then some of the Feds are gonna talk about the economy, auto sales, cars in demand, key sign for consumer strength. So all this is gonna happen on Wednesday. So this is what investors look at. This is pretty much how it plays out. So they can have all these fucking big words, whatever, whatnot, but it's simple. This is how and what investors look at. This is why investors pay attention to job opening, and then based off on now we're in the point where it's everything's all fucking manipulated. But originally, if we didn't have this interest rate bullshit, the market, if we have good data with good news with data, I mean, good data news with companies hiring, then originally the market would react to it. But since we're in a fucking point of it's complicated right now. Thursday, you guys. Thursdays, private payroll, job preview before Friday's big report. So Friday, we're also having a big move. That's also going to indicate how the S&P is going to close. And if you have a layout of these candles, how they look, it's much understandable of where they're going to end up closing and moving to, especially when you keep track of the time and you know what time sensitive areas are that affect the S&P 500. I explained that in my other videos, but I'm going to go more into it later on when there's actually data coming out and I can explain it on live. Weekly job claims, unemployment, trend check, productive cost, August job report. So there's going to be how many jobs we got in August. So that's why Friday, you see how they put this shit on Friday? This shit could have been on a Monday, on a Tuesday, but they put it on a Friday. What a fucking coincidence. And it's one of the biggest fucking Strong's report. Why? Because it's a whole summary of how many jobs reported we got for August. The forecast is 70 plus job openings. Unemployment steady at 4.2. This is the big one. Guides the Fed on interest rates. So remember what happened last time? We'll be having these reports, how these numbers have been tweaked. So just pointing it out there. On top of that, we're also having a lot of chit chat with China about the interest rates, about tariffs. Also, we got earnings, but we got to pay attention to what tweets or says during this whole week too. That affects a lot, especially if we have any sort of tariffs event or tweet or comment. That's also going to affect the market. So this is not your regular market where it was just data. Now we're also bringing tweets. We're also bringing tariffs. So this is why this is one of the most volatile markets that I've seen so far. But as we get closer to Tuesday opening, I'll then go more into details of how the S&P closed on Sunday and Monday, and therefore get a better structure and how we're gonna be looking as we get to Tuesday. Because Tuesday we're gonna start with the data coming out 5:30 in the morning. So Monday night is gonna tell you where and how the S&P should be reacting, especially around your 11:45 to 12:30 at nighttime. Again, I don't like just being here because there's nothing really to talk about since there's nothing happening tomorrow. Pretty much, again, Bitcoin and Ethereum. One more last thing, Bitcoin and Ethereum are one in a way, you guys. I was trying to see it show Bitcoin or tell ChatGPT how here you go. How Bitcoin and S&P are synchronized. Bitcoin often trades like high-risk tech stocks. When the S&P rallies, because if you think about it, Bitcoin is tech. Bitcoin is a blockchain, and therefore banks, institutes are using it. And not just that, you can clearly tell how it's synchronized to the S&P 500, to the New York stock, pretty much. That's the Nasdaq. All these four now big tech, the US 30, the Nasdaq, the S&P 500, and Bitcoin. You can throw in there Ethereum too. They're all synchronized together. When the S&P sells off, job weakens, inflation hot, rating higher. Bitcoin often dumps as well. Correction is strong because both respond to big macro drivers like Fed policies, jobs, over risk. The S&P is the school main school board. Bitcoin is like the small club team. If the whole school vibes are good, everybody cheers, even for small clubs. Even ChatGPT is telling you this. It's not me writing this shit and telling you to fucking tell you guys this shit. Anyways, I'll update you tomorrow most likely on another video. Thank you for those. You're watching this shit. I don't script this shit. It's just fucking off the dome. I don't have time to really to look at the comments and really try to put it all together, you guys. So my bad for that. You made me lose all my crypto. Don't take it advice. Yeah, cool. Sorry, buddy. Bye. Please, yeah, go buy Pulse Chain, whatever the fuck that is, dumbass. What is this? This is just me going over the S&P and Bitcoin, how and why they're reacting the way they're reacting, what data is coming up for this week. If you want to watch the rest of my videos to see how I work or how I sit there and analyze this shit, you can guys go ahead. Jason Cruz, you can suck a dick.